Hi, class. I'm really sorry that I can't be here with you today. However, I think that this is a really exciting lesson that you're going to like. And I know that you've been working hard learning about Darwin's theory of evolution this week. And so now today we're going to get into a little bit more detail. Before we do that, I do want you to go back to your do now so that we can go ahead and check the answers. So at this point, you should have already completed your do now. I'm just going to go ahead and tell you the answers, and then we'll move on with today's lesson. So number one says, in which scientist's theory of evolution describes the following statement: individual organisms, not whole populations, evolve over time based on their environment. That would be Lamarck's theory. Number two says, which of the following statements is not true according to Darwin's theory of natural selection? A says that organisms that are well adapted to their environment successfully reproduce. That's definitely something that we talked about yesterday. B says that organisms that lack the necessary adaptations may not survive competition over their resources. That's also true according to Darwin's theory. C says that characteristics acquired throughout an organism's lifetime are not passed down to the offspring. That's definitely what we talked about. Lamarck is the one that says that acquired traits are passed down, and then organisms in a changing environment must adapt to acquire the necessary traits. So this one is not true because Darwin says that the individuals do not adapt. They do not acquire the trait. The population adapts. And so the individual would not acquire a necessary trait. They either already have it or they don't. Number three, woolly mammoths became extinct thousands of years ago, while other species of mammals that existed at that time still exist today. These other species of mammals most likely exist today because, unlike mammoths, they, produced offspring that had identical inheritable characteristics. That's not true. They did not face the struggle for survival. That's not true. All animals face a struggle for survival. Learn to migrate to new environments. That could be true, but really at the end of the day, they're not going to migrate always. They're not going to know necessarily the environment's going to change, but they're going to have certain traits that allow them or enable them to survive. Number four, young birds have been raised in isolation away from members of their species, and they build nests, characteristics of their species. If the young birds that do not live with their families still build the same nests, it means that this must be an adaptation that's inherited from the parents. And number five says, which process best explains how mountain ranges are worn down over time? This is going back to last couple weeks' material, would be mechanical and chemical weathering. So on to today. By the end of the lesson today, we are going to explain how Darwin developed his theory of natural selection. So we're actually going to look at some of the ways in which he developed his theory, and that way we can talk more about it. You've already read my note. I wonder how old you're guessing. I'm going to see when I get back who is most close, and obviously if you're here, you've already gone to today's video. Okay, so to get started. Yesterday, we learned that evolution means change over time, and we discussed this topic in terms of how organisms on Earth have changed over time. This is called biological evolution, but we just studied in our last unit how the Earth has changed over time, which is called geological evolution. So I want you to stop and jot. What are the ways we learned that Earth has changed over time? You can go ahead and pause the video as you answer this question now. Okay, so hopefully you pause the video there and everyone has their stop and jot down. You should have talked to me about all the different things we know that have formed because of plate tectonics. The continents have moved, mountains have formed, things of that nature. But evolution in general is something that we actually observe in our everyday lives. We just might not think about it in that sense. So what you're going to do is, in your box, you should find the evolution of phones cards. I want you to look at each image and try and sort the cards in the order in which they were developed. Then discuss and answer the questions below. So you're going to take these cards, and let me go ahead and pull them up. You're going to take these cards here and sort them into the order in which you think that they developed, and then you from the oldest to the newest, and then I want you to discuss these questions. Observe the different phones, describes how they've changed over time, and then number two, why do you think phone engineers changed the designs of the phones over the years? So why are today's cell phones more practical and useful compared to the older phones? Go ahead and pause the video at this time and do that now. Okay, so you should have observed that the phones have certainly changed in how they look and then all the different things that they can do. I'm interested to see, and I will look on Tuesday when I grade these to see what types of ideas you came up with. And then the reason phone engineers change the phone is to really, at this point, we want to be more mobile. We want to be able to take phones with us, and we want them to do more. And so those are some of the ways in which they've changed. So the key takeaway here is, do you think, did the individual phone itself make the changes it needed to adapt to its users and the needs of the people using the phones. So for instance, did the iPhone 7 get rid of the headphone jack all on its own? Or did the telephone design change over time as engineers kept beneficial traits of the old phones while making changes to meet their new users? Okay, so is it the individual phone that's sitting there physically changing all the things about it? Or is it that over time, the engineers and developers kept the things that were really beneficial, such as a speaker or a volume control? And then they knew, so it kept the traits that were beneficial, and then the phone engineers added in the new traits. So you could pause and go ahead and answer this question now. So that's just a little bit of an example of how we see evolution in our everyday lives. We see technological evolution all the time. The individual devices don't go ahead and change themselves and gain new traits, but the traits that are effective, that people like, get kept, and then the ones that they don't end up not being passed on to the next generation. So for the next section, you're going to do a really quick explore. So we just explored how we see evolution in our everyday lives, and Darwin used this to develop his explanation of how evolution occurred, and he did that by observing traits in a population, which we're going to do now. In your box, you will have a ruler. The question we're going to investigate is there a variation of traits in our own classroom? And what you're going to do is you will use the ruler to measure the length from the tip of your middle finger to the bottom of your palm in centimeters. So what that's going to look like is this. You're going to take the ruler and in centimeters measure this length from the very tip of your middle finger all the way to the bottom of your palm. And then for each group member, you're going to record this data in this table here. And then I'd like your group to answer the reflection questions on the right. Go ahead and pause the video and please do this quickly now. Hopefully you already got your materials bins when your materials manager got your Chromebook. If not, you may go ahead and get your Chromebook at this time. Definitely gave you a pause there. I meant to say go ahead and get your materials bin and then pause the video at this time. If you did that already, you can keep going at this point. If you did not pause and just listen to my awkward pause, you can go ahead and pause the video now, get your materials bins, and then push play again when you're done. Great, so one example that I thought here of when it might be useful to have a small hand, because I'm sure you saw that not everybody has the same size hand. One way it might be useful to have a small hand is like if you're trying to pick something out of a really small space and you got to fit your hand in there to get that. Another example of when it might be better to have a large hand, I know basketball players, I think it's beneficial. I'm not a basketball player, I have small hands, but I think it's better for ball handling. And so those are just some examples I thought about, and I'm interested to see what your group came up with. Okay, so for the rest of this lesson, what I'm going to have you do is you're actually going to stop working in your groups and you're going to split up into partners. Don't get out of your seat. You may work with the person I normally assign you to as partners. If somebody's absent, you guys can adjust and figure out who you need to. You may sit in groups of 3 if necessary. What I'd like you to do is read the passage below that explains Darwin's journey that led to the development of his theory of natural selection. As you read, you should answer the questions on the right. I want you to do partner trading reading, which is where you read one paragraph. One partner reads one paragraph, go ahead and answer the question, and then the next partner will read the second paragraph. And you'll keep rotating back and forth for every paragraph in this passage. And make sure you're answering all of the questions on the right-hand side. When you finish reading, go ahead and answer the summarizing questions, and then you'll find this exit slip. It's just, well, on my page, it's 2 of them. You probably all have 2 on yours because I'm going to just leave these attached, so just ignore the fact that there's 2 of them. And when you're done, just go ahead and answer these 2 exit slip questions. And if you finish early, you may work on your homework. I hope you enjoy this lesson. And if you have any questions, it would be a good space to jot them down right here so I can make sure to address them when I get back. Have a great rest of your day.